Alright, so I gotta tell you, snow in October is not really my favorite thing, but flying this gorgeous Mooney behind me, that's definitely something fun to do. This is a complete review of the Mooney 262 conversion. Similar to the 252, this is one of the best equipped with a nice avionics package and a full TKS de-ice system. Oh, it's a long video. It actually took us about 4 days to edit it, but it is one of the most detailed that you'll find. In this video, we're going to go ahead and take a walk around the outside, check out the inside and the panel. We're going to talk about the onboard oxygen system, the TKS de-ice system, as well as the engine, the TSIO 360, and why this turbocharged engine is one of the best out there for the Moonies. And then we're going to go ahead and we'll start it up, taxi it, and we'll do some takeoff and landing, and we'll show you our signature flight portion as well. I want to thank you for watching our video. We appreciate if you would like the video, subscribe to our channel so that you can see more detailed videos like this in the future, and of course if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, please feel free to leave them down below. We always take our time to answer them as best we can. Now if you were to ask me what the best Mooney is out there, I'd have to honestly say the family of 252. So there are other great Moonies out there like the M20J, the 201. We have a detailed video of that on our YouTube channel you could take a look at. And then there are also the faster, more spacious, long body, newer Moonies out there. But the reason that I say the family of 252, and what I mean by 252, the M20Ks, the 252, the 262 conversion like the one behind me here, the Encores, they're all very similar, but there are slight differences in between each of them. But honestly, I haven't found any other production certified airplane out there that can do what these planes can do. They can fly to 28,000 feet, climb constant up to 24,000 feet, and then they can fly 200 knots at high altitude. And other Moonies obviously can do this. The newer Moonies can even go faster. But for those planes to do it with their 300 or 350 horsepower engines, they burn 17 plus gallons an hour. The two words to describe this Mooney is that it's fast and it's efficient. Newer models have to burn more to be fast, but this Mooney, only 12, 13 gallons an hour, and you can run it lean of peak at 10, 11 gallons an hour. So, you know, what's even more interesting is that they do all of this with just 210 horsepower. That's only 10 horsepower more than the M20J model. Now the reason, to get back to I am saying that this is the best model, is just because of that fuel economy combined with the speed. It's also a well-refined airplane. It has a very refined Continental TSIO 360. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that nice engine during the engine section in just a few minutes here, and we'll talk about the systems that make it one of the best engines out there. This Mooney is for sale. If you're interested in taking a look, we have a link down in the description below to our website that has all the detailed logs as well as additional photos and other specs and information about the plane. Talking a little bit more about the fuel efficiency of this plane. So when you're getting in the plane, you get up to your high altitude flight and you start flying. With this particular plane, you can climb up, get to your flight levels even, and you can fly 5 hours because it's so fuel efficient before you have to descend down and land for more fuel. Other airplanes, you can climb up to flight levels, you can fly really fast, but within a short period of time, they have to descend down and get more fuel because they're not nearly as fuel efficient as this one. And that 5 hours, honestly, for even a hardcore pilot, that's a pretty good endurance level, and you can get really far in that time, mostly because it's obviously an unpressurized single-engine airplane. And we've had really nice long trips with this plane as well. It flies really comfortable. You get up to those higher altitudes and you set it up for cruise, and it's just a smooth sail, nice long distance cross-country airplane. If you happen to have a plane that you're looking to sell, go ahead and give us a call or contact us. We actually may be able to feature your plane on our channel like we do with these videos. One of the things that I like about Mooney is that they have very reliable, low maintenance systems, and one of those examples for those systems is here in the gear system. Over here you can see that there are rubber discs or pucks here in the gear instead of on other planes where there's the air shocks. One of the things with that is that when you're on a rougher taxiway or landing on a runway, you will notice a little bit more vibration to that. So you want to pull back on the yoke and put the pressure off of that front nose wheel. I want to talk a little bit more detail about this DI system. Now there are two types of DI system. The one has a hot prop in it and usually the pneumatic boots on the wings, but this one is a TKS fluid system. And what it does is it has spots out here where the fluid will run out along the prop, and as the prop is spinning, obviously it will go through that, and then it will throw it back here. So it'll come all the way along the fuselage, over the cowling, over the windshield, clear the ice off of your windshield, and then all the way down through the fuselage. On top of that, it's got two sets of holes, these little holes here that it weeps out of on the front of the leading edge of the wing. So it's going to come out and it's going to come all the way back along the wing and clear all of the ice. The pneumatic boots typically just pop off, break it off, maybe come back a little bit, but this is going to just slide all the way back, clear all the ice along the wing. And I also want to go all the way to the back here by the tail, and I want to show you it's got two sets of it back here. Got to be a little bit careful, it's kind of icy, make sure I don't slip. So it has a set here along the leading edge so that it can come all the way back, clear all of the ice off of this area, and then it's also got two rows here on the vertical edge so that it's clearing all of the ice all the way along down here as well. And that TKS fluid gets filled and weeps through all of those different surfaces. There's a fluid tank to fill it here. And it's got a funnel, and you just go ahead and you just top off the fluid, and then inside on the panel it actually has a gauge that tells you what your fluid level is at, so you can make sure that you're topped up, especially when you're getting ready for longer cross-country flights in the winter and the cold. You have your gallons available on there. It's very helpful to be able to watch and see if you're getting low on fluid. You can check it as part of your pre-flight. You're able to go in and top up your fluid with another couple of gallons. Make sure that you've got enough when you're going. You've got the option here to switch it over to de-ice, and if we pop that on there, you can see the light comes on. It's running, so then if we let it run long enough, it's going to throw the fluid out through the pores out on the wings and the prop and everywhere else. Easy for the pilot to monitor and maintain while they're in flight. If you're actually looking to buy a plane, we actually only put a select few of our listings up here on our YouTube channel like this in public. So the best way to get notification when we have a new plane for sale is to go to the link below, sign up for our emails, and you'll get notification as soon as we have a plane for sale before we list it anywhere else. Now we're obviously very protective of your privacy, and one of the other things is that you're able to narrow down and select only the exact type of aircraft that you want us to notify you about, so you're not getting a bunch of extra emails as well. And that's a great way to learn about the new planes that we have coming in and get the first chance at them before they go out to the general public. Now on to one of the best parts of this particular aircraft is the engine. It is a Continental TSIO 360 MB. You take a look at the overall condition here and see just how clean it is. We've had multiple flights on it, don't have any oil leaks or oil dripping anywhere. Cables, connections, wires, everything are in good shape. Hoses, everything like that. All the gaskets are good. You can see multiple probes throughout, and that has to do with the engine monitor system that's installed. When we take a look back here, you can see the firewall is clean. No wrinkles or damage anywhere. We've got dual alternators on this. We've got one up here that's belt driven, and then down in the bottom section, it's hard to see, but there is a direct drive alternator underneath back in there. So that's that dual alternator system. Again, all those redundant systems and backups that this aircraft has in it. We take a look at the top here. You can see all of the pipes coming in to each of the cylinders. This is a tuned induction system. Helps the aircraft run cooler. One of the things with the turbos, a lot of times you have to put cylinders and do a top overhaul, sometime mid-time engine. Now with this one, if you run it and maintain it properly, you can actually go to TBO or beyond without having to do cylinders or a top overhaul. Let's take a look at some of the components on this side here. So that scoop that was on the cowling, that feeds into here, and this air does a few different things. It goes around the other side and then comes in through here to the turbo. And it's going through, you've got the air for the turbo here. Coupled with this turbo, we've got a wastegate. And now the automatic wastegate system on here is one of the key components to this setup. You don't have to worry about overboosting the engine. That's going to give you better performance and a longer life to both your turbo and your engine. If we move on up here, we've got air coming through here. This is the intercooler. Now the intercooler cools down the compressed air that's coming through the turbo and going into the cylinders. And the point for that is that you're cooling the air down, you're giving it to the cylinders at a lower temperature, which is good for the cylinders, and it also makes it denser, which gives you a better performance. And finally, this plane also has GAMI fuel injectors installed. Not only does that help you run more efficiently, say on lean of peak, it also gives you a better fuel distribution, helps the engine run more efficiently, saves you fuel, and also keeps the cylinders maintained at a similar temperature by having that balanced fuel. You can see over here we've got a nice small window. This is very helpful for taxiing. It allows a lot of air in, as well as being able to communicate to ground crew before startup. That's one of those Mooney features that I definitely like to have over here. If we go down, you can see here we've got an oxygen gauge. So this is the onboard oxygen system. It's got a connector here for the pilot's side. You just have to line it up in there, and then it's a quarter turn and it's locked into place. And then you flip the switch from the off to the on, and then you have your oxygen flowing through here. And then whether you're using a nasal cannula or obviously at higher altitudes you need to be using a full oxygen mask. Those are very beneficial, but it's really nice to have it right here in front of you that you can easily monitor and access while you're in flight without having to worry about what's in the back seat or behind you. For the rest of the passengers, there are 3 additional connectors right here. So all 4, it's a 4-place oxygen system. Very simple system. It's just an oxygen tank, but it's mounted and fixed to the aircraft, and the lines are all plumbed throughout. So you've got the cable here. When you turn it on, it opens the valve, and then it's got the hoses running to supply oxygen up front to the different locations. And then there's an adapter that you can actually put on there that comes with to be able to refill it, both with a full system from different FBOs, or if you have a tank that you want to plug into it and just add the pressure that way. I want to also show you the fuel system in here. One of the design changes that I like is the location of the fuel selector. Older ones, the 201 we had down here in the center, it's accessible by the left pilot, or if there's only one person flying in the right seat, they can reach over. But this is in the center, and this is where it should be, in my opinion. You've got your left and your right tank. Very easy to access by either the pilot or the co-pilot. And then obviously right here, this is your gear indicator to show that your gear is down. And then your fuel drain is right here for pulling and testing your fuel before flight. Now with the seats back, you can see even if you are a taller person, you need lots of leg room. This is pushed all the way back. You've got plenty of space up here on both the pilot and co-pilot seats are like that. Outside I had showed you there's a air scoop. This is where those come in on the front side. When you open these, you have direct air coming in. Those hotter days, that is very important. But not only do you have it up here, but there are also additional vents throughout the top. Turnstile ones, kind of like the airline style. So you get a lot of air coming in from these scoops here, and then back here for the passengers as well. Let's take a look in back here by where the battery compartment is. One thing is you can see just how clean the airframe of this plane is by looking back here, but I also want to show you some of the components. So you've got your charger plug right in the front, plugs into the battery, and then if you look across, there is a nozzle there. That's that TKS attachment that I showed you. Just taking a look all the way through, it's a little bit dark back there, but you can see just how clean the airframe is by looking in the tail section of any plane. That's a good indication. Now let's take a look at the panel on this Mooney. We have our, starting over here on the left, key and our outside air temperature. You've got your standard airspeed indicator and turn coordinator. And then here with the Sandell, your SN3308. This is coupled to the autopilot and the GPS. So you have your GPS location set up in there, and it's going to have a magenta line so that you know where you're traveling. And then it's coupled to your autopilot so you can do your heading and your turns and coordination and everything through this unit. Very nice to have it right in the front here. Looking over here a little bit further, we have a JPI 830 engine monitor. Gives you all 6 cylinder head temperatures and exhaust temperatures, as well as your TIT temperature, your turbo inlet temperature, and then your CDT down here, your discharge temperature. You've got your voltage and oil temperature, everything like that is showing right in front of you. It's very important to have this when you're in flight to monitor what your fuel consumption is, as well as your temperatures in flight, and allows you with those GAMI fuel injectors to run at lean of peak very precisely. Across the top here we have our fuel levels showing and indicating, and these are your primary obviously, but it's nice that supplement I showed out on the wing that has the gauge, so you can look at this. If one of these were to fail in flight for whatever reason, you can look outside the window and you can see that one in flight as well. Along with the fuel system, we have a FL101 here. The fuel shows here. You can set up and see how many gallons of fuel you've used. It'll also show you your current fuel consumption and gallons per hour in flight. So it's very helpful to have this. You're able to lean it out, but you're also able to precisely monitor how much fuel you're consuming while you're flying, so that you know exactly when you need to start your descent and set up for landing to pick up some more fuel. We wrap up the top here. Obviously your cylinder head temperatures and your oil pressure and oil temperature are up here from the factory gauges, your amp meter. This is your gear switch to put your gear up and down. And then an annunciator panel here. So this annunciator panel, when you push it, you test it, make sure all of your lights come on. That's to show that everything's working. Now you've got your gear down and unsafe indicators. These are your fuel levels. It's an extra light to let you know if your fuel level's getting low on either tank, and then your voltage regulators. Everything is right there. It's very helpful to have while you're in flight. And speaking of voltage, we've got our alternators. So we've got dual alternators. You've got a left and a right field here. So if for whatever reason one of your alternators were even to fail in flight, you can actually turn that alternator off and run off of the other one. Again, one of those redundant systems that's extremely important that this plane has. If you can see over here in the corner, we've got low boost and a high boost pump. These are used for emergency only. If you have an issue with fuel in flight, you can do the low boost. They've even got a lock on here because that's only in an emergency situation that you want to pop your high boost pump on, because when you're starting it, we use our primer switch, which is over here in the center. So it's obviously on the opposite side of where the boost pumps are, so you know you're not using the wrong button on accident when you're doing your startup. Wrap up the center section here. Obviously we've got our throttle, prop, and the mixture controls, and those are all turnstile. We've got some alternate air to pull on when you need extra air inside, and then your parking brake if you use that. Your vent controls are down here for the heat and the fan and the defroster and everything. And these over here are your flap indicators. So this is your cowl flaps. We've got those open right now. It's very important to see. You want to have that cowl flap. You must be open before you do your takeoff and when you're climbing to maintain proper engine temperatures. on those climb outs. We have our trim here on the left side, and then our flap indicator on the right side. And then this is the switch for the cowl flaps here. So this is your switch for your flap indicator. You can see, set that to takeoff for your takeoff trim on the flaps. This is your electric trim, and these are all electric. You can see this is moving down here. That is me using the switch on the pilot's left yoke, electric trim. You push it and you just update up and down. As well as there is the turn wheel down here in the center section, so if you turned off the electric trim or had an issue or malfunction with that, you have the manual trim here as well on the trim wheel, and some pilots just like that better. Here on the left yoke we have, like I said, the trim switch, electric trim. This is your autopilot disconnect, so if you need to switch off your autopilot quickly, you just pop that and it disconnects it. But underneath here you have a small switch. If you push and hold this, it temporarily overrides the autopilot. So if you need to make a quick course correction or whatever reason, you can disconnect this temporarily, make your correction, whatever you need to do, and then go ahead and let go, and it'll reconnect and re-engage your autopilot for you. And then the push to talk is up front here.
With this autopilot, there's a couple different options. Once you test it, you can engage it, and you've got your altitude hold, but you can do either heading or nav. So the nav is connected to the 430 watts up here, so you've got your direction and heading.
Last, over here on this side, we have our Garmin 760. You've got maps and other charts, a bunch of different information in here. Hooking it up to the GDL52 gives you in-flight XM weather options. We talk about that in detail in the flight portion, so please watch that section for more information about all the features. Just to round it out over here, we've got our TIT gauge. The CDT is over on the JPI, so it's unused on here, but the TIT gauge does work over here. You've got your RPM and your manifold pressure. I mentioned about the fuel flow down here, and then all of your circuit breakers over here in the corner. So the startup procedure on this one is a little bit different. We're going to get the master switch turned on. Make sure the radio master is still turned off. There's an annunciator panel up there that we're pushing and we hold, make sure all the lights come on so we know that that's working and that all of our alert lights are working. We have the mixture to full rich. Throttle is at about ½ an inch and the prop is all the way in. Is going to hold the prime pump until you hear the sound change. You let it go for 3 seconds with that sound change, that pitch change. Crank it, turn the key, and while it's cranking, as it catches, sometimes you gotta shoot a prime a couple times in there to make sure that it catches up on there.
Fergus Falls traffic, Mooney 565 Niner Lima. We'll be back taxiing runway 31 to check runway conditions. Fergus? can see on our climb here, we're climbing at about 900 to 1,000 feet per minute. We've got our airspeed about 90 to 100 knots. One of the things that I always like to have available to me in a plane when I'm flying, if at all possible, is something like the API 850. These advanced digital engine monitors, having all the parameters in one location, it makes it so that you can easily watch everything. It's a peace of mind that you can use. If you have any anomalies in flight, you're able to look at it and troubleshoot it very quickly and efficiently. You want to see the TIT here and make sure that you stay below the red line. That's one of your main things you're focusing on besides your cylinder head temperatures is your turbo inlet temperature. We got just a little bit of a tailwind here, but you can see that even at 9,500 feet running, we're actually going 173 knots ground speed and at only burning 12.5 gallons of fuel. That's actually a very good speed. Again, a little bit of a tailwind, but not very much at this altitude.
So we were on a cross-country trip. We were at about 8,000 feet, saw some weather developing in front of us, went ahead and started our climb, got up to about 12.5, put our oxygen on, contacted ATC, got up to 16,500, smooth sailing. We had a little bit of a tailwind. We were over 200 knots. We were able to clear the weather system, get on the other side, go in for our descent to land. Some other planes, you wouldn't be able to do that. You wouldn't have that capability to climb up over the weather systems like that and to go that speed and the fuel efficiency to get over on the other side of the weather systems. You'd have to land, wait it out before you could keep going. You can see now we're deploying the speed brakes. This allows you to maintain airspeed while putting you at a 500 foot a minute descent. It avoids shock cooling the engine.
On something as fast as this, with this type of speed, the speed brakes are almost an essential part. So if we go here to the active flight plan and you can go in, you see the waypoint, you can click on that and you can do a procedure load. You've got the information for the waypoint, hold on it, inserting. But when you load the procedure, and select an approach. So if we do an RNAV for 3, 1 to match the other one, you can see here you've got your different sequences. So if we go ahead and we want to activate it, and obviously it's for reference, so we want to make that our approach is going to be at the Agag intersection, so now we want to go ahead and we want to direct to that intersection so that we're there from here. Now you can see on the map at the Agag intersection, it also has the missed approach holding pattern as well. It intersperses overlays the flight approach plate, so you can see your altitudes. Everything is all one screen, easy to see right in front of you.
You can see there's traffic on the Garmin 760, and actually there's a close one here that we need to pay some attention to right now.
Airport, automated weather observation. 1, 5.
Here you can see the autopilot flying the approach.
Weather, wind, calm, visibility.
When you extend the gear, it will reduce your airspeed in preparation for landing. Now the Mooney isn't a hard plane to land if it's flown as designed and you manage your approach speed, somewhere between 70 to 80 knots depending on flap settings, weight, and wind. It's important to reduce your power slowly and cool the turbo gradually before shutting down. Typically, your taxi time into the ramp is sufficient, but just keep an eye on that. I hope you've enjoyed watching our video today. As always, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch it. Like our video and subscribe to our channel so that you can see more detailed videos like this in the future. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to leave them down below. We always take our time to do our best to answer if you've got any questions, and we always love to hear your comments about the plane as well.